Hey everybody, welcome back for more submarine history with me, your host Haiku. Today we are going to do some practical cryptography and look at the structure of Enigma messages and how to encipher and decipher them. In the previous briefing, that was number 18, Enigma codes and ciphers, we took a quick look at the history of ciphers and how they evolved over 2,000 years, culminating in the one-time pad, which, if employed correctly, proves to be an unbreakable cipher system. However, there are drawbacks to the one-time pad, which makes it not easily scalable to large applications, such as tens of thousands of people needing to send tens of thousands of messages daily. So we need a system that provides almost as good security, but that can also be scaled up without much effort. This is where Enigma enters the picture for the German military. Even by today's standards, an Enigma machine, if employed correctly, offers the equivalent of 77-bit to 84-bit encryption, depending if you're using the Naval M3 or M4 Enigma machine, which is actually better than the 56-bit data encryption standard, DES, which was the standard for digital encryption developed by IBM and used from 1976 to 2002. Today, there still are Enigma messages yet to be deciphered in online projects that use a variety of distributed computing techniques for personal computers, for example, the SETI project, if you remember that, to crack them. Even today, with all the publicly available computing power out there, it can take weeks, even months, to break a message where cribs or other weaknesses in messaging are not available to shorten the process. To be clear, we're talking about naval Enigma. The Wehrmacht and the Luftwaffe Enigma machines were routinely broken during the war because they did not employ the sophistications of the naval version. But we'll take a look at that issue in a future briefing. Today, we're going to look at Enigma from the German perspective and talk a little bit about how messages were put together, enciphered, and deciphered for their use. Now, hopefully you've seen part 1 of this series and have done your homework and watched the recommended videos and at least peeked at some of the websites which are in that video description and in this one. If not, I would suggest that you stop watching this briefing and do that first. It will help you make sense of what we're going to be doing today. And feel free to stop the briefing to study the slides if you want. I'll be putting the settings for the Enigma machine and the message itself in the description to this video. So let's get to it. Our references for today. And a continuation of our brief history of Enigma. This carries us from 1918 to 1939. Around 1800, there were a number of people in different countries around the world who had begun work on developing a rotor-based mechanical ciphering machine. In Germany, around 1918, there was a German engineer named Arthur Scherbus, and he patented a cipher machine using rotors. Scherbus and Ritter ends up building the first Enigma machines for commercial customers, and those machines consisted of 3 rotor slots, 3 rotors, and no plug board. By 1926, the commercial Enigma is adopted by the German military. By 1932, Polish Cipher Bureau developed a system to break Enigma messages. And in 1938, the same Polish Cipher Bureau actually created a bomb to assist in the breaking of Enigma messages. Between 1932 and 1939, the German Army adds the plug board to Enigma, and the improved version is adopted by other German military branches. And eventually, the Army increases the number of rotors available to 5 and the Navy to 8. We'll stop here. We'll continue with the rest of the history in the 3rd installment. Okay, so for today, here's an example of an enciphered message. And we'll break this down a little bit here. At the top, that's our plaintext header. And what that plaintext header tells us is that this is a message to BDU being sent at 1540 hours on the 8th day of the current month. It's the 107th message of the day. And there are going to be 24 four-letter groups to follow. and that includes the message indicator for a total of 96 characters. In the red boxes within the body of the message, that's the message indicator. It's repeated at the start and the end of the message for clarity. And then finally, we have the enciphered message itself. So let's encipher a message. But before we do that, we are going to be working with German. All right. So there are some translation tips, which are available at the Cipher Machine and Cryptology.com website. And then additionally, we have some common message abbreviations that the Kriegsmarine. So to start ciphering, it's helpful if we have some sort of paper form where we can write down our unencrypted message and then note the enciphered letters as we go along. What we have here is a typical message sheet that was used by the German military. This form changes in format and style, through the war, but this is typical. And then besides a form to actually write down our unenciphered and ciphered letters, we need the Cipher Table sheet for the message that we're going to be enciphering. And this is a Cipher Table sheet for the months of March 1940 for the Ireland circuit. I actually generated this myself using a piece of software that's available through the Cipher Machine and Cryptology website. Now I should also note it's not shown on the form here, but we're going to be using for this cipher table for this month, March 1940, we're using the A reflector. So while they change the rotors on a daily basis, the reflectors, they kept those for an entire month, and I'm guessing that it was probably a little bit more work getting the reflectors in and out of the machine, so it's just a little bit more convenient just to leave that reflector in for the entire month. And then this is a blow up of a section of the cipher table where I actually did this work yesterday, March 30th. So I went ahead and I just used the settings and ring settings, the plug board settings for the 30th day of March. Now on the right hand side, let me back up. So on the left side we have the day of the month, and you'll notice it's kind of like in an ascending order, excuse me. And that was done so the operator could, at the end of the day, tear off that line of information and throw it away. So on the left we have the day. Next to it we have the rotors that are to be used for that day and in which position, followed by the ring settings that's going to be used on each rotor for that day, our checkerboard settings, and you'll notice we're using 10 plugs, which gave us the maximum security. And then on the right hand side there's this thing called the Ken grouping. So, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, so these are going to be the settings for our message. We're going to be using the M3, that's the Naval 3-rotor Enigma machine. We're going to be using Reflector A. Our wheel order is 614. Our ring settings are going to be 22, 02, 21, and then we have our plug board pairs. And this is the message that we're going to encipher. And again, it's in German. I do have a translation at the bottom, which roughly translates to Konvoi at grid AM1469 will attack in the morning. Schmidt, who would have been the U-boat captain. And this is our plain text message ready for enciphering. Now, all I've done is I've taken the plain text message, I've replaced periods with the letter X according to the Kriegsmarine abbreviations, and I've written out numbers because the Enigma machine can't encode a number, it's got to do letters. Once I've made these substitutions, then what I've done is I've just broken the message down into 4-letter groups, and that just facilitates transmitting. Okay, so for this exercise, we're going to be using the Enigma Simulator by Franklin Heath Limited, and this is available for Android and Apple. There is a PC-based Enigma machine simulator that you can get through the Cipher Machine and Cryptology website. I kind of prefer the this Android version a little bit more, but that's just a personal preference. Both versions do the exact same thing. So, to encipher. Number one, set up the Enigma with the daily settings. And to do that with our simulator, we're going to tap Options, and that's going to give us on the left the option to set which Enigma model we're using and what our printing groups are going to be. And then if we tap Settings, then we're going to get into the menu where we can set our reflector, our rotors, our wheel settings, and our plug board. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to pick a random starting rotor position. In our case, we're going to use ZDY. And all you'll do is with a stylus or your finger, you'll just pull up and down on those cogs, and you'll actually see the letters moving, which is an indication that the rotor is being turned. Once we have our initial random start, ZDY, we're going to type in our key, which for this message is HAI. And when we type in HAI, it's going to be enciphered to QBW. As you're hitting the keys, you'll see the rotors turning, and you'll see this ticker tape on the right. It'll start moving to the left, and it'll be a printout of to reflect what's being enciphered or deciphered. And you can tap on that, and you can copy, paste, save, send, whatever you want. So the key HAI is used for this message and is only used for this one message. It's referred to as a nonce, and it's essential to main security of the Enigma system. So once we've gotten our enciphered key, we're going to set our rotors back to HAI. Now at this point, start typing in your message. So take your stylus, just start tapping the keys. It'll make a fun little sound. You'll hear a sound as the rotors are turning and as they get flipped over. And then when you're done, you'll see that ticker tape which has been moving across. That's your enciphered message. And again, you can simply just tap on that, and you can copy that paste and move it to another application for further processing. So this is our enciphered message ready to transmit. Once the message, how this workflow goes, a message to be sent is written, the captain approves it, the message in plaintext is written out on the form, it's handed off to the radio operator, he does the enciphering, and then after he's done that, he goes in and he adds the indicator group, which is going to be our starting position and that encrypted key. Now, this is where the Ken grouping would normally come in. You would use those on that code sheet line for 30th March. Way on the right, there was that thing called Ken grouping, and you saw a number of trigrams. You would actually take those letters and you would do some substitutions on the indicator group, which are the things in red, and that would help to obscure what the true initial setting and encrypted key were. We're not doing that today, and really all the Enigma sites that I go to where messages are decrypted or they offer you the chance to decrypt one, the Ken grouping, it tends to get ignored just to make things a little bit more simple. So when this message is handed off to the radio operator, he inserts that plaintext header, so it's going to be to you. He's sending it at 1500 hours. It's the 30th day of the month, our first message of the day, and we have 21 four-letter groups. And the 21 letter groups, which is, and it's 82 letters total, includes the message indicator repeated twice. Now we're using the M3. We're using a 3-rotor machine, and our indicator is 3 letters and our key is 3 letters, but our word group is 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert a dummy letter at the start and the end of that indicator group. And in this case, I've chosen the letters G and J. Now, to decipher, just set up the Enigma with the daily settings. Set the starting rotor positions to ZDY, type in QBW to get HAI, set your rotors back to HAI, type in the enciphered message, ignoring the message indicator groups at the start and the end, and that actually results in the deciphered message. So that's it for today. I would say, go ahead and take a shot and see if you can reproduce what I did here in this briefing. Like I said at the start of the briefing, I will have the machine settings, I'll have the plain text message, and I'll have the enciphered version, and see if you can duplicate that. Slow and steady wins the race, so don't rush. And if I can give you one tip, if you choose to try to do this message yourself, when you're enciphering or deciphering, if you make a mistake with your letters, you have to stop, and then you have to turn back the rightmost rotor one position and rekey that letter. In the next installment of this series, we'll take a look at Enigma from the Ally side, and we'll actually try to decipher an encrypted message much as they would have at Bletchley Park.
And that's it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the briefing, and we'll come back again. Feel free to contact me via email. I am on Discord, Twitter, and I do have a Patreon. Thanks to USNI for doing the job they do so well. Their publishing arm is an invaluable resource to the preservation of naval history. Consider becoming a member so their work can continue long into the future. Till next time, peace out.